Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Logistics, where we have conversations with thought leaders and newsmakers in the supply chain logistics industry. It's my great pleasure to welcome today's program Omar Singh, who is president of Surge Transportation, and Prasad Gollapalli, who is founder and CEO of Trucker Tools. And today we're going to talk about leveraging digital freight tools to build carrier loyalty. So, it's no secret that, we're in a very constrained transportation environment right now. Last I heard, there's something like 7 to 8, loads for every, truck that's out there. So what does it take to secure reliable and repeatable capacity? How do you build carrier loyalty? And what is the role of technology like transportation management systems and freight matching and real-time visibility, technologies and all of this? Well, those are some of the main questions we're going to discuss in today's episode. And it's great to have Omar and Prasad with us on the program to share their insights and advice on this program. So, Omar, Prasad, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk with you guys today. So looking forward to the conversation and hopefully sharing some ideas that are helpful to the viewers. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. And Prasad, as always, welcome to the program as well.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. It's always nice to chat with you, and I'm excited to chat with Omar. He's done a marvelous job of, leading this space really well. So, excited about this.
Great. So Omar, let's start with you. And like I always do, before we kind of dive into specifics of the topic, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Surge Transportation, but maybe some people are not. So why don't we start there? Why don't you, tell us briefly a little bit about Surge Transportation and your operations and your role there?
So I started Surge in 2016, toward the end of 2016. I came up, so I started driving trucks to pay for college. So I was a local driver in Northern Virginia for many years. And then after college, I bought a truck. I was an owner operator, drove over the road for a few years, and then had a medium-sized trucking company, which I ran through the recession and we closed. We didn't make it out. And then at that point, though, I had some customers, from the relationship from the trucking, and then was able to go into the agent world with some of the large national firms and, capitalize on those relationships. And as I recovered, then took Surge independent in 2016 with our the business model that I kind of developed in those years that we were recovering, or I was. And now our legacy office is Jacksonville, Florida. Our original office is Jacksonville. Our largest office is in Chicago. And we have some remote people, of course, naturally with COVID around the country. And very large growing office in Medellin, in Colombia. And then we have some other kind of third shift and weekends in the Philippines. So really had to spread out a lot, partially as a result of COVID, just hard to get people, to come in. So yeah, we're about 180 strong now, and so growing very quickly. So having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, great. I mean, that's a good congrats on the success to date. I one of the things I love about asking that question all the time is I'm always interested in how people get into this industry to begin with. And I think you're the first guest in all the years that I've been doing this program that started out as a truck driver.
Yeah.
So I think it's a unique perspective, to actually have that on the road experience. So you can certainly speak to, that experience. And I'm sure that's been, very valuable to you as you now, lead Surge Transportation here. So let's get into it then, and leveraging that experience and leveraging what you've been kind of living through we've all been living through the past, year and a half here. Again, very tight environment. It's very, constrained. I mean, what does it take to, secure, reliable and repeat capacity? In other words, I mean, how do you build that carrier loyalty?
Well, I think it's everything. I think a lot of brokerages, I think you really have to treat carrier sales in the same way that you treat customer sales, right? And so a lot of brokerages, I think, focus entirely, or not entirely, but maybe the predominant amount of their sort of just structure and workflow around customer sales. And I don't think that, we can give the customer what they want without also treating carrier sales in the exact same way in all of those relationships. So from just a day-to-day standpoint, you want, the ease of use, ease of onboarding, proper staffing to be able to respond to carriers' needs when they have them, because they do. For us, I think providing a 24/7 environment, a lot of times it's thought of as something that you use to advertise to your customers that you're available 24/7. But carriers also, need help 24/7. There's delivery appointments in the middle of the night or in third shift. There's unloading fees, so just helping with day to day. So covering the advances for unloading fees, not charging high fees. I think we have, the lowest quick pay in the industry. So making sure that sort of cash is available to them if they needed to help, because a lot of small and medium-sized carriers, I mean, geez, the price of operating is so much higher now than it used to be, really rely on that cash flow. And then obviously a big part of today's conversation is about, the digital sort of connections with them. But I think if you don't have what's always worked historically, which is, good rates, quick pay, good service, and a culture in which the drivers are valuable and those relationships are equally as valuable as customer relationships, it gets really hard to sort of set yourself apart from the competition. But yeah, that's worked for us a lot.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, I think, and I think Prasad, I think we've talked about this in the past as well, and I think I think it's very easy to overlook sometimes the fact that you really serve two customers, right? You're serving the shippers, but you're also serving the carrier, community as well. And I think in the past I've said, it's kind of gives new definition to the term CRM, right? Everyone, when they think of CRM, they think of customer relationship management. But in your world, CRM can also mean carrier relationship management, and that's a critical, component of all this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, like I'll say, if you could have all the customers in the world, but if you don't have carriers, then you can't move the freight. So you have to have a system in place that treats them the same. Now, of course, they're more voluminous in number, right? So we got the number of carriers we work with compared to the number of customers are different. So it's certainly a different strategy, and some of it's infrastructural strategy and corporate strategy for handling that, more than like a one-on-one kind of personal relationship, like we develop with our customers. We're spending so much time with the same ones year over year. But in the same way, they just have to be treated equally as valuable. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Prasad, I mean, obviously you work with a lot of carriers, you have a lot of conversations with them. You've got a good pulse there as well. I mean, just to building on what Omar just said, I mean, what do carriers expect from their broker partners today?
I think, everything that Omar said was very nice, right? I mean, it's customers on both sides, right? So when brokers look at carriers as customers, the very first and foremost thing that these carriers look for, especially the small carriers, right? I mean, we're talking about 20 trucks or less that move over 90% of the freight in our space. They look for a strong, reliable partner in a broker that they can anchor their business around, right? So that becomes the core for them. So it could be just one broker that they're looking for. It could be a handful of brokers that they want based on their carrier network size, right? I mean, there might be 5 trucks, 10 truck guys, right? Or what lanes they drive. That, the core part, when you talk to every carrier, they'll say, hey, we want good brokers, trusted brokers that support us in our journey, right? That truly is what they ask for. And obviously, we've had the opportunity to really bring these guys and ask both the brokers and carriers what they want. And interestingly, both sides said, hey, we want transparency so we could build trust. So, you see this, there is a give and take too, right? Expanding on the thought of what carriers are looking for. If we break it down, it is reliable freight, consistent freight that they want, right? I mean, I'm a one truck guy, like Omar has this experience, and you can't ask for someone to understand more than what Omar has, right? I want consistent freight, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on those lanes. If a broker provides me that freight, I have very little to worry about where my next load is going to come from. And I think that certainty makes my business much better. That uncertainty of I don't know where I'm going to get my next load is very, very burdensome for a small carrier. And that's probably the biggest pain these guys go through.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a great point, and I think that you talked about trust. You talked about kind of having that relationship, right? And it's one thing to say. I mean, I was kind of thinking about it. People say, well, equating it to friends, right? Um, we may all have a lot of acquaintances, but really, there's only we could probably true friends are you know a small number, and they're hard to come by, right? So I think it's similar here, right? I mean, you met a lot of brokers out there, right? And you can have acquaintances with them, but really, if I heard you right, Prasad, I mean, I think really what they'd like is to find those true friends that they trust, that are dependent, that are reliable, that are going to help them, with create a win-win opportunity for them as well, right?
Absolutely. And, interestingly, some owner operators, small carriers, when we spoke to them, they said, hey, I call this broker. On this lane, I always call this broker. They don't even shop around. I know we talk about there are 8 loads or 7 loads for each available truck. Um, Trust can make such an impact. This particular example, this guy drives from Maryland to Florida, and every time he drives that, he calls this particular brokerage and that particular person at that brokerage. And that is the dependency, right? That level of trust that these guys have. And in many ways, that's how the brokerages are also built, right? I mean, they aggregate these small carriers into one solid, uh, capacity pool for bigger shippers. That's a consistent pool, right? So
Yeah, and that's a great example. I think it also speaks to the importance of relationships there, right? And relationships and trust, go hand in hand. Omar, going back to you now, let's talk a little bit about technology now. I know from a technology standpoint, you're already using a TMS from the cloud software. I mean, what capabilities and functionality were you looking to add to that TMS platform, and why? And then what factors ultimately led you to work with Trucker Tools?
Well, I think that was it. I mean, all of this is kind of as the landscape is changing, right? And so the digital transformation is affecting all of us to kind of look at the future and say, what do I have to do to be relevant, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 10 years from now? And so I guess what we're trying to do is invest, we have real-time pricing capabilities, TMS integrations with some of the large shipper TMSs, Blue Yonder, Blue Jay, Mercury Gate, Oracle. So we've got pricing, and then we've got the capability on our side so pricing is more customer facing, right? And then so motor carrier facing is the automation of being able to either with Trucker Tools, it started out just seeing the capacity and where our loads are compared to the trucks. And now with the upgrade within the cloud, we've invested in all of the digital freight matching capabilities to be able to activate all of that in a real-time environment with Trucker Tools and sort of take some of just the labor out of the phone calls. I mean, I'll tell you, like I'm trying to staff as quickly as possible, right? I'm trying overseas, I'm trying here, but we like really get, I would say the number one complaint we get from carriers is like, yeah, like, dude, I would take your load, but I was on hold for 5 minutes, right? Like every time I call in, I hear the same music, I hear the same hold music, like I can't get through. And so Book It Now capability is, just it eliminates that, right? And our business model has always been to post the kind of target rate, right? And obviously there's some negotiation that goes on, especially on same day. But the Book It Now model, it just fits right into that because you post the rate and it's a fair rate, and if it works for both sides, then they take it, and they don't have to worry about listening to our really good hold music, um, and in hopes that they get through. So that I guess investment in that capability, I think, is going to be the biggest kind of milestone investment that we've had this year to be able to activate it. And so we purchased the capability, I guess, in Q4 and went live with it in Q1, and it's doing what it's supposed to. So
Oh, that's great. That's great. I mean, I know that, obviously your business, as a business leader, your goal is to, continue to grow your business and do it in a scalable, and profitable, manner. And there's only so many people you can hire and so quickly, right? And,
Right.
I think the path to success these days is how can you automate, some of these things that historically have been done via email, via, telephone, via manual processing. I mean, I think that some of the technology that's coming to bear in the market today is really to help automate and streamline, a lot of these processes that were historically very, very labor intensive and manual in nature. And it sounds like you're having some, success there, so far with the Book It Now, capabilities.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's successful. I mean, all the carriers who are using it are happy with it. A lot of times they say, once people start booking digitally, they kind of stop the phone calls and emails and just say, I'd rather just work with people who can provide that capability. So we don't have to deal with all of the waits on hold and the miscommunications. And month over month, we're starting to see more and more adoption as kind of the word gets out that we've activated the capability. So it's pretty exciting, and I think the trend's just going to continue.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of providing that enhanced carrier experience, right? We always talk about customer experience, but here's an example of, again, along the analogies of CRM, here's an example of, providing an enhanced carrier experience as well. Hey, not letting them wait. As good as your hold music may be, they'll prefer to not have to listen to it than, even if it's only 5 minutes, to be able to automate that transaction is certainly much more preferred. So Prasad, I mean, for brokers that already have a TMS, just like, Omar and Surge Transportation, I mean, what are some important factors, that they should consider when selecting, a freight matching and real-time visibility partner?
I think Omar did a good job of connecting these two pieces, right? TMS versus the digital platforms together, right? So, brokers that have looked at that have already been adopting to a particular TMS, right? When they look at these tools, the primary purpose of these digital platforms, whether it's for matching or tracking, is to connect with their carrier community, right? So they should look at, if I'm in the market to buy a digital platform, I should look at 4 or 5 things to start with. The first one is, are my carriers, where are my carriers, right? So one of my friends in this industry said this. He said, Prasad, we like to go where our carriers are, right? So how many of my carriers have already adopted to this platform? That's the first thing I would look at. The second thing is, functionality wise, is this something that's a complete product, or do I have to buy 4 or 5 products to make one product, right? So tracking and matching are two sides of the same coin. So having one platform keeps your carrier on that platform. If you're using one platform for tracking, one platform for matching, and at another platform for getting the documents back, you're actually giving a runaround for your carriers. So you're making it harder for them, right? That carrier experience, building that carrier, it becomes harder for them to work with you. As opposed to, so, I like the example that Omar gave. He said, well, we saw that our carriers like us, but they don't like to wait on the phone. So we immediately adopted to technology to make it easier for them, right? That, I think these are subtle signs that, those people, those brokers like Omar who react very fast, they can see that. That's the second one. The third one is when you bring in a digital platform or a vendor, like in this case, we're a vendor for Omar, right? As a broker, you should ask questions. Is this a partner who is going to really build the platform in the direction that I want as well, right? Not just what they think they should do, right? Oftentimes, our space gets vendors where they think they know what their customers want, right? That's actually a very, very big misconception. So, involving brokers is an important thing. We've had conversations. Omar asks us, what's in your roadmap? Hey, this is where we see a gap. I want you to put this on your roadmap. A very demanding customer is actually a very good customer for a vendor, right? And a partnership, right? This is a partnership where we work together towards a common goal. The fourth point I would make is technology is not just technology, meaning in today's world, technology is technology plus support. If one of Omar's team members has an issue or says, hey, well, this load is supposed to be tracking, it's not tracking. Who do I call immediately rather than just wait for 2 days, 3 days, right? So having good customer support from the technology side is a must. And the last thing I'll add is how aggressive is this platform? Because so 5 years back, we weren't talking about digital platforms. 10 years back, in my previous life, we had, public load boards. We thought that was the best thing since sliced bread. Nobody talks about public load boards now. A year from now, we don't know if digital platforms will be the new thing, but there will be something new coming up. These vendors have to be constantly innovating, right? So you want vendors who are aggressive, who are constantly building products. So if you find a partner with these five attributes, it truly puts you in an amazing position as a 3PL or a broker to take advantage of that platform to build your business. Ultimately, the goal for someone like Omar is to build his brokerage up, right? I mean, that's what he's providing services to his shippers and carriers.
No, great points. I like the point that you brought up in terms of it's not much just technology, it's technology and service, right? And that support, which ties in nice into what Omar, what you brought up before, right? In terms of being able to provide that 24/7 support, and not only for the shippers but also for the carriers as well. So that concept or that importance of support, is a common thread that goes throughout your respective relationships and the customers that you serve. Omar, you touched upon some of this already, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, or maybe share some other examples. I mean, can you talk a little bit about some of the benefits you've achieved, so far by leveraging technology, by going on this digital transformation journey? And we've talked a little bit about the carrier side, but what benefits do shippers get out of this as well?
Well, I think shippers, I've spoken on this before a little bit, but I'm seeing more and more shippers, and some of it is, of course, the result of the supply chain disruption that's resulting from COVID, and things became really tight, and driver behavior changed, and hotspots, supply chains, just kind of got repositioned away from food service and grocery, and just huge disruption on lanes, right? But even before that, we began seeing a couple of years ago shippers allocating a certain percentage of their freight to a real-time environment. And I think that's a really mature, healthy supply chain that people are acknowledging, saying, okay, a certain amount of my freight, they used to put 100% of their freight out to RFP and say, we want to try to lock down 100% of our forecasted freight in a linear way. And it doesn't really work anyway, but and now a lot of them are saying, well, I'm gonna bid out 80% of my forecast and play the market with the others, with the just healthy realization that when the market is down, I can probably save some money and pay less, and when the market is up, I'm gonna end up paying more, in the same way as if I had just bid out 100% of my freight and then I get 20 or 30 or 40% tender rejection. This just says, okay, I realize there's going to be some tender rejection in the system. So, and it's okay if I just have to pay the market rate. And that's, to be honest with you, even that's shipper to broker, but we're in the same way, broker to carrier that way. You guys were talking about loyalty earlier. In many ways, we have a lot of repeat relationships where, for us, the carrier loyalty is, give me the truck, right? Work with me rather than the other guy. But yes, sometimes when the market is down, we have to, just kind of pay what the market is. And I get it. And when the market is up, we pay more. But the relationship is there to say, let's work together, right? And I'll call you on Monday and Wednesday and Friday. And I get it. It sucks when it's down. It's great when it's up, and we just have to adjust with that, and customers adjust as well. And I think for the ones who are willing to accept that, they secure capacity, because they're saying, okay, yeah, I get it, it's up, capacity's tight, there's 7 loads to 1 truck, but I need that truck. So you can secure capacity faster too, right? The way when you used to have rejections was to do a 2-hour or 4-hour auction, and now it's minutes, and you have all your prices back. And if you have reliable people who not just give you prices, but also give you capacity, then it works, so save money when the market's down, secure capacity when the market's up. And, I think you get your products delivered, and that's at the end of the day, what everybody wants is for the end consumer to get what they need, so.
Yeah, that's it's a great insight there, because I've actually been writing recently about how the traditional transportation procurement process from the standpoint of shippers has become outdated, right? And I think you gave some good examples there in terms of how shippers are starting to think differently in terms of how they want to procure transportation, whether from the contracting standpoint, as well as the spot market, or the more real time standpoint. And I think what's enabling this shift is certainly part of it is being driven by the market itself. It's just become much more volatile and unpredictable. But they wouldn't be able to do that without this technology that's in
Right.
place, and with folks like yourself implementing this technology to enable shippers to enact these different procurement strategies. Because at the end of the day, if they decided continue to keep their 20% in more of this real-time environment, but if they have to wait 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours to get a rate, or to understand if they get capacity, it's not going to work out, right? So it's really from them, it's really dependent that you're investing in technology to be able to provide that capacity, provide a fair rate almost instantaneously, to help them meet their customer requirements in terms of on time and in full expectations that their customers have on them. So I think that's a great point there. As a way to wrap up, and Omar, I'll start with you, and then Prasad, I'll ask you kind of a similar question. So what's next, for search transformation in your digital transformation journey?
Well, I think what we're doing is we're trying to bring right now all of the kind of different digital platforms that we're working on, sort of trying to bring them full circle. I mean, everything that we're doing is working right now, but one of the things we purchased the API module, for our TMS, and so we're doing pricing outside of the TMS, and now we're doing the digital freight matching, inside of it. But in terms of coming full circle now, we're going to bring in sort of more advanced load board management with the APIs, bring in the pricing. So the pricing is going to go to the customer TMS and then come back to us either through API or EDI. But now we're going to tie the systems so the reporting, is better. And just keep on, there's some things that we do with technology that we do on our own, that we build, but for the most part we buy. I think that partnering with companies who do it full time, they do it better, and they do it constantly, have enhancements and upgrades, and so we don't really have the capability of doing all of that. But maybe what we're doing is at least providing the base to say, I can bring all these tools and systems in together and make them sort of centralized in a visible way that works for us as a company. And that is certainly an investment on our part, but it's not saying that we do it the best, right? So in order to provide pricing, we use benchmarking tools. We don't just do it on our own. In order to provide digital matching, we use trucker tools. We don't do it on our own, but we're at least developing enough tech to bring it all together. And so it's an exciting journey, and look forward to continuing it.
Yeah, well, it's one of these journeys that it never ends, right? And sometimes you have to accelerate that journey. And certainly, I think that's what happened, in 2020, when companies recognized, particularly those that were standing on the sidelines, found themselves in a world of hurt, because they, was still operating as if it was 1999 and not 2020. And but anyway, it sounds like obviously you're an early adopter in many of these things, and it continues to be something that you continue to try to continue to improve upon. Prasad, kind of similar question to you. I mean, I'm sure you mentioned that your customers really dictate where you go. So where are your customers taking you in terms of new capabilities and innovations?
I would say where we are, right, and then I'll share with you where we're going with the digital transformation. We've started this journey a few years back. In my viewpoint, I think we are in the first quarter of this game still. The initial jitters have settled in very well in the last 12 months. A lot of customers like Omar, who are on the forefront, have adopted to this platform very well. Now we're driving into it's so, we look at this transformation as it's never going to be 100% of anyone's freight going to digitize. Parts of that will get digitized, right? So the journey would have to address all of this. Two, we're also looking at, what Omar said, I'll connect back to this thought is, it's not just digital platforms, meaning a lot of people look at digital platforms as digital freight matching, but that's not part of it alone, right? So digital freight matching, visibility, document scanning, we're talking about electronic bill of ladings, uh, tagging all these things together. So at the end of the day, we're pushing this information back into the broker's TMS on time. And at the same time, we're giving those same benefits to the carriers. So it becomes a very tightly coupled systems and people operating. So the inefficiency in supply chain will start getting reduced. So I still believe there are at least good three quarters plus left ahead of us in this journey. I think the next 3 to 5 years are going to be extremely important for all of us, especially the brokers in this space who are scaling up. They will start scaling up much faster. I mean, we're already seeing that with the early adopters. They're scaling much faster than others. Every broker is going to get on a platform like this. And the sooner they get on it, the sooner their journey starts. They have to go through all of this, right? I can't wait for the future, to be honest with you. We're getting the front row seat of this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've been an industry analyst now for 22 years, and there's always something new to talk about in this industry because there's a lot of innovation, a lot of startups that keep coming in, and I think the challenge has just become different and more complex every day. That it's ultimately what drives this innovation. Who knows? Maybe in a few years' time, instead of talking about trucks, we'll be talking about brokering drones or or things like that. So you never know. That might be another aspect of your business there, Omar, is dealing with instead of dealing with carriers and owner operators, you're dealing with drones and drone operators.
That'll be interesting to see. Yeah,
those would be interesting times indeed. Well, yeah. Anyway, on a more serious note, I want to thank you both for your time to participate today. You both provide some great insights and advice, and I'm sure that our listeners value your comments very well. So again, Omar, Prasad, thank you for making the time to be with us today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. I hope that it was insightful and helpful to some of the viewers. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Prasad.
Thanks.
I want to thank those of you that joined us. If you're watching this episode on demand, either on the Trucker Tools website or on Talking Logistics, and you've got a question or a comment for Omar or Prasad, you can post it there, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to respond via that medium. Again, thank you for joining us, and look forward to seeing you in a future episode of Talking Logistics. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. All right.